Hello. Hi, everyone. Sorry for being late. 5 minutes. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, kind of. Okay, I say this every day, but I just woke up. So I don't know. It's tough. I don't usually wake up at 9 a.m. here, but yeah, I think it's a good time. I don't know. I guess it's just hard. I suspect most of you watching would be in like the States. So like, it's really hard to find a good time that's good for you and like where I'm awake here. Well, but I'm moving there anyway, so I guess it'll be only get easier. And actually today, right, I realized it's pretty cool because we're getting to read a lot of Du Fu, who is, as you may know, like the probably the best Chinese poet like ever. Or at least that's the reputation. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. It's 10 full poems by him. And actually I wasn't expecting him to write so many of these 7-character regular verse. Because if you remember, right, like previously, most of them, it was just like, we only had like 1 or 2 poems by the same author. It's kind of surprising that, like, if we look back, like the last few, right, even the last few he was writing, he was the one who wrote those. So not this. So from like, I guess 182 onwards. Yeah, so that's pretty crazy. Like, I wonder how many he, right, so at least like 10, 15, and out of like, how many are here? 54? Like, that's insane. That's like a good quarter of all these poems are by him. I mean, a quarter of poems in this genre. So, well, lucky for us, he's a good poet. So I guess we'll get to have some good poems to read for a while. So yeah, hopefully, well, not to hype it up too much, right? Not to like raise our expectations too high. Yeah, uh let's give it a go. Now today, let's start with this first one. A view of the wilderness, 野望。西山白雪三成树，南浦清江万里桥。海内风尘朱棣阁，天涯涕泪一身遥。唯将迟暮共多病，未有捐哀达圣朝。花马出郊时极暮，不堪人事入萧条。Snow is white on the westward mountains and on 3 fortified towns, and waters in this southern lake flash on a long bridge. But wind and dust from sea to sea burn me from my brothers, and I cannot help crying. I am so far away. I have nothing to expect now but the ills of old age. I am of less use to my country than a grain of dust. I ride out to the edge of town. I watch on the horizon, day after day, the chaos of the world. Damn. Wow, that's intense. Okay, why don't we look at the context of this? Okay, so he's 50 at that time. He's sort of in Chengdu. Sort of he's alone. He can't really communicate with his family through letters. This is because there's still a lot of warfare. I think it's probably because of the rebellion, right? Around this time. And yeah, he's just feels terrible. Yeah, like life is not good. So let's go through this again then, line by line. Okay. Snow is white on the westward mountains and on 3 fortified towns. Okay, let's just check the references. Right, so As expected, these are just like around Chengdu. Okay. But oh, interesting, right? Because they're fortified. Is because there's also I think the Tibetans are kind of attacking as well. So yeah. And waters in this southern lake flash on a long bridge. Okay, so these are also yeah, just in landmarks in Chengdu. Right. But wind and dust from sea to sea bar me from my brothers. So the wind and dust here is a metaphor, at least. I can't believe I just said like, yes, there's obviously a metaphor. Like, well, it could be something else, but here it does seem to be referring to just the war, the turmoil resulting from the Anlushan rebellion, which I've mentioned a few times by now, or more than a few times, yeah. And so yeah, so the wind and dust from sea to sea bar me from my brothers, and I cannot help crying. I'm so far away. It's like, wow. Wow. Damn. Yeah, so his brothers, he literally does have quite a few brothers. He has 4 of them. And only one of them is with him at that moment. The other 3 are sort of scattered throughout. So he's very worried about them, right? And I think in other poems he also says like, oh, I can't like get there. It's so hard to communicate with them. I guess generally it's hard to communicate in this time, especially during a war, right? Yeah. And then next, I have nothing to expect now but the ills of old age. I mean, he's 50. He's not that old by our standards, but I guess in a war, like there's very little you can do. And probably he wasn't like doing well in his political career. So yeah, I'm of less use to my country than a grain of dust. Hmm, interesting. Yeah. Just wanted to confirm if he had I don't know, if he was like, had a rough political career. But I guess like almost every poet listed here did, right? Everyone's just complaining about how they got demoted. Uh, I think the skills involved in being a good poet, they don't necessarily coincide with the skills of being a good politician. So I can see why many poets do badly, yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then the last 2. I ride out to the edge of town. I watch on the horizon. Day after day, the chaos of the world. Yeah, damn. I guess some thoughts is that I thought it was interesting how he started with the 3 fortified towns. So it does set the scene very well that this is sort of in the, like war is on his mind, right? And yeah, yeah, he doesn't really mention the war again all the way until the very last line, right? The chaos of the world. So I think it's very well done that he does set the context, but he also focuses, like it's clear what he cares about, like what he's trying to say, which is like, I guess more of a personal thing, or just like being separated from his family, and that he feeling like very helpless. There's nothing he can do. And yeah. Yeah. And all he can do, I guess, is to watch. Yeah. And to write. And yeah. Yeah. So I'm not sure what there is to say here, but very moving. I do think, yeah, really, yeah, he has a very difficult life. Okay, let's go on to the famous critics, and then I can go back again to see if I missed anything. Uh, okay. Okay. Hmm. There was one comment which said like 3 and 4 are like his worries but far away, and then 5 and 6 are more like closer to him. But I don't think that's quite right, because even like his, if it's about use to his country, to the dynasty, right? That's already a quite a far-ranging, um, right? Like it's not just like very immediate, not like a very localized thing. So it doesn't feel like the trans movement here is from like far to near, but it's just a, yeah. So it's not really like a, like yesterday a poem where we're saying like it's like goes from far like wide to narrow, or narrow outwards, right? I don't really see that in this part. Yeah. And I guess I was just wondering why does he mention that he goes to watch on the horizon? I think it feels like this is a very powerful line somehow. I think it says a lot without saying much. Like, I feel like when he says this, I can feel like, oh, maybe he's like waiting for a messenger, or he's seeing like if someone is attacking, or it's, but it, like I just feel like he has a lot on his mind. Yeah. Just this idea that where every day he goes out to look on the horizon. Or yeah. I don't know, just very like poetic image, I think. I also think it's very interesting because, I mean, in all these poems, there is always about, it's from the perspective of the poet looking, but here he's like, it's almost like a bit meta, where he says that I go to watch. It's like so he so instead of us seeing through the eyes of the poet, here is like us imagining him, like sort of like third person. We're imagining him seeing. And I think that kind of gives like a bit of distance from between us and him. I think that's why I feel like it's a bit enigmatic, like what exactly he is watching for. But all we know that he is watching. Yeah, yeah. So I think it's very interesting, in fact. Yeah. Hmm. Like this part, I mean, this part is very frank, right? He's just like telling you, yeah, I'm basically useless. I'm useless and I miss my family. But in this last part, it's sort of, I don't feel like I quite understand what he's feeling or thinking here. Maybe it's clear to others, but it's not very clear to me. And I wonder if he's even clear to himself what he's watching for. Yeah. But yet somehow it is this watching that titles the whole poem, right? A view of the wilderness. Yeah. Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Or to put it in another way, I think there are a lot of poems about views, but not about the viewing, the poet seeing things. Yeah. So, very interesting. You said that he is too old to fight, perhaps. Yeah, I do think so. 50. He can only watch from a distance. So you're saying he's keeping tabs on the war, on the fighting. That's pretty interesting. Okay. I guess there are the fortified towns. So he might be, I mean, he's literally seeing it. So he probably can see any more, any fighting that takes place there. So that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Just skimming through here again, if there's anything else. And yeah, okay. Then maybe let's move on to the next one. Then by Du Fu again. Both sides of the Yellow River were captured by the Imperial Army. 文官军收河南、河北，舰外突船收冀北，初闻涕泪满衣裳，却看妻子愁何在？漫卷诗书喜欲狂，白日放歌须纵酒，青春作伴好还乡。即从巴峡穿巫峡，便下襄阳向洛阳。News at this far western station. The north has been recaptured. At first, I cannot check the tears from pouring on my coat. Where's my wife? Where are my sons? Yet, crazily sure of finding them, I packed my books and poems, and loud my song and deep my drink on the green spring day that starts me home. Back from this mountain, past another mountain, up from the south, north again, to my own town. So what's the context for this? Wow, okay, so this is pretty much the end of the Anlushan rebellion when they took back Henan and Hebei, right? So east and west, south and north of the Yellow River. Okay, so pretty big deal. And yeah, he's just really happy. And I think there's a mild translation error here. So, well, let's go by line first. So news at this far western station, the north has been recaptured. Okay. At first, I cannot check the tears from pouring on my coat. So check here meaning like stop, right? Because he's just saying like when I first heard this, my tears and I guess mucus, I think just tears they fill my shirt, my robes. So just he's crying a lot. They're pouring on his coat, yeah. So he cannot stop it, I guess. And this one, this 却看, I don't think it's searching for his wife and sons, right? The qi and zi. But it's like he's just turning to look at them. Yeah. So it's 回头看. He's just turning to look at them and to see like, oh, and there's no longer a trace of sorrow on their face. So it should be like turning back. Where is the sorrow on my turning back to look at my wife and sons? Where is their sorrow? So it's not like he's estranged from his family. Yeah, I don't think that's quite historically accurate. You could say that maybe they went off to like buy groceries or something, and then he's like, "Where are they? I need to tell them." But I think it does sound like he's just like they're just there, and he's just turning back to see. Yeah, and so then because here, so then the next line also needs to be retranslated, right? So I think he just starts like rolling up all his poetry scrolls, documents, right? And then like he's really happy. Yeah, he's happy as though he's mad, right? It's like crazily happy. Yeah. Okay, and next, On the green, and loud my song and deep my drink. Okay, sure. On the green spring day that starts me home, back from this mountain, past another mountain, up from the south, north again to my own town. So I think it's pretty cool that he just when it says back from this mountain to another, past another mountain, he gives the actual names of the mountain. So there's Ba Mountain, U Mountain, and then the Surf, and then it does give like the actual names here as well. So like from Xiangyang and then towards Luoyang. Yeah, and that's really cool. It's like Baxia, Wuxia, Xiangyang, Luoyang. Like there's a really good parallel here. So that's very well done. Yeah, and maybe just another thing is, let's say like green spring. I mean, usually 青春 nowadays we mean like youth, right? It's a metaphor where like youth is like the spring. So I think would be quite, to me at least, it seems like he's also saying that his youth has come back for a moment because of this good news. Yeah. So I guess it's really like extremes. The previous poem is like utterly depressed, and this is like, wow, it's just like ecstatic. So good for him. Good for him. Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts from you? So maybe his family is in the north. Yeah, I think probably his brothers, right? Who is also looking for. I would think so. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the famous critics. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it is really happy. He's just like not a single character in this poem where it's unhappy. Like all of them are happy and like jumping in joy almost. Yeah. So yeah, just great for him, man. Okay, that's great. And let's move on to the next one then. This is Dengao, a long climb. 风急天高人萧哀，渚清沙百鸟飞回。无边落木萧萧下，不尽长江滚滚来。万里悲秋常作客，百年多病独登台。艰难苦恨繁霜冰，潦倒新停浊酒杯。In a sharp gale from the white sky, apes are whimpering. Birds are flying homeward over the clear sky and white sand. Leaves are dropping down like the spray of a waterfall, while I watch the long river always rolling on. I have come 3,000 miles away, sad now with autumn, and with my 100 years of woe, I climb this height alone. Ill fortune has laid a bitter frost on my temples. Heartache and weariness are thick dust in my wine. Wait, why is he suddenly so sad? What? Wasn't he like ecstatic just now? Okay, so this has been like 4 years, well, since the end of the rebellion. But then there's a lot of like local infighting, so a lot of wars still going on. Oh, that's not great. Okay. So at first he was serving in some capacity, trying to keep the peace, but then his like supporter died, so that didn't work out. Okay, so yeah, he went to, but then he became really sick, and so he just, I don't know, it just feels like very frustrated, very sad. Like, I guess the happiness, like the promise of this previous poem didn't really pan out, right? Like in the end, the war is not conclusively, like there's no conclusive peace, even though the rebellion, the first rebellion was stopped. Yeah. So, and then he's old and sick. Yeah. Wow. Let's see. Apparently a very famous poem, this one. So, in a sharp gale from the wide sky, apes are whimpering. Birds are flying homeward over the clear sky, a clear lake, and white sand. Leaves are dropping down like the spray of a waterfall, while I watch the long river always rolling on. So I think this is okay. It's more, I mean, it's describing the landscape, but this will only make more sense after we know what he's feeling. Yeah. So I have come 3,000 miles away, sad now with autumn, and with my 100 years of woe, I think here is literally illness, I climb this height alone. Ill fortune has laid a bitter frost on my temples. Heartache and weariness are thick dust in my wine. Wow. Well, first, he's obviously not 100 years old, but he's old. I mean, he's like 50s, right? He feels old, at least. Yeah. And then, so it's 100 years of, I guess, old, and he's ill, right? And he climbs the height alone. And then, I like this idea. It's just to say that his hair is turning white. It's like ill fortune has laid a bitter frost on his temples. I love that. And this last part, heartache and weariness are thick dust in his wine. It's like he cannot even, I guess, enjoy these small things just because it's so. He's really going through something. Yeah, I mean, illness is rough. It's really rough. Yeah. So I wonder how the first part fits in. Like, I guess there's birds flying homeward. It feels like he is a bit homesick. Leaves are dropping down. That sounds like he's kind of decay. I mean, like death and decay. It's autumn, right? And then there's apes are whimpering. That doesn't sound very good. So it's like, I guess he's really picking up on the things that are not great. Yeah. But I think the long river rolling on, I think it can be either optimistic or pessimistic. It can be like, the troubles never end, just like the long river keeps rolling on. But it could also mean like, no matter what, I will always keep rolling on. I will always persevere. Yeah. So maybe there's even a little arc, an emotional arc within the first 4 lines. Yeah. But I think this might be better if you put it at the end. Like, if it was meant to be optimistic, then we can end it with the, it's like, yeah, just at the end with, yeah, like putting it here, if everything else is kind of a downer, then putting it here, then I guess it would make more sense for this just to be like, almost like my woes are endless, like my woes are endless, like this river is endless. Yeah. At the same time, because previously he did think, oh, all my pains are gonna come to an end, almost, right? Like the rebellion is at an end. So it does make sense that he feels like, damn, like it really is endless. Like all these the sorrows of life are, yeah. That's, so I guess here was really like whiplash, like utter depression, and then like, oh, I'm so happy, and then it's like, oh, I'm depressed again. Yeah, he's had a difficult life. Yeah. And okay, maybe let's look at some famous critics. Oh, Du Fu is really good, right? Like, not much to say, but like, I feel every poem is just really good. It's very, like, you always have like great lines like this, like, wow. Like, ill fortune has laid a bitter frost on my temples, heartache and weariness are thick dust in my wine. Wow, that's great. Mm. Hmm. Now this is kind of interesting. This also caught my eye. Like, I'm always a sucker for like when there are these sound effects, or when there's this like repetition in poetry. So it's like the xiao xiao gun gun. So gun gun is like the river rolling on, right? It's gun gun. I feel like it does kind of sound like a river, the sound of the river. And then xiao xiao is mournful, right? Line 3 is dropping mournfully the leaves. So here it says it sort of, I don't know, rouses the spirit. It definitely caught my attention. Yeah, especially maybe this part, just like I wasn't really sure what was going on. So I think having this kind of, at least it made me pay attention, because I just think it's very cute. The sort of repetition. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. I think that's about it for this one. Maybe if you have any thoughts, I'll just check. Okay. Then this next one then, from an upper story, 登楼，花径高楼伤客心，万方多难此登临。锦江春色来天地，日累浮云变古今。北极朝廷终不改，西山寇盗莫相侵。可怜后主还祠庙， 日暮聊为梁父吟. Flowers as high as my window hurt the heart of a wanderer. For I see, from this high vantage, sadness everywhere. The silken river, bright with spring, floats between earth and heaven, like a line of cloud by the jade peak, between ancient days and now. Though the state is established for a while, as firm as the North Star, and bandits dare not venture from the western hill, yet sorry in the twilight for the woes of a long-vanished emperor, I'm singing the song his premier sang when still unestranged from the mountain. Okay, very enigmatic. Let's look at the context for this. Okay, so it's a Zhuge Liang reference again. Well, let's look at the context first. Okay, looks like so there's still a lot of work going on, I think. So the Xishan Kou Dao. So apparently the bandits here, these are the Tibetans. And let's go line by line now. All right. Still a bit confused. So flowers as high as my window hurt the heart of a wanderer. So and this is just some like some random building. It's not so it's not like a famous building that he's at. Okay. And then so he's just a bit higher up. So he sees the flowers. And for I see from this high vantage, sadness everywhere. The silken river, bright with spring, floats between earth and heaven. So what's the silken river? It's just in Chengdu, okay? And this is where silk is washed in the river. And that's where the name comes from. Okay. Then like a line of cloud by the jade peak between ancient days and now. The jade peak. It's just a mountain in Sichuan near Chengdu. And yeah. So the river is like a line of cloud, right? I mean, and then he's clearly situating that this building is in Chengdu by name dropping these things. Okay. Then though the state is established for a while, as firm as the North Star, and bandits dare not venture from the western hills. Okay. Yet sorry in the twilight for the woes of a long vanished emperor. I am singing the song his premier sang while still unestranged from the mountain. Okay, these last two lines are okay. So the long vanished emperor is the son of Liu Bei. So if you remember yesterday, we were talking about the three kingdoms, right? The three kingdoms period. So then the good guy is Liu Bei, because he is descended, he's of royal blood, and so he is the most kind of legitimacy to the throne. And but the others, he ended up losing in the end. Yeah, spoiler. Well, not really. I mean, he died first, and then so he passed on. So his son was sort of taking over, right? To fight for their own. I mean, to unify the empire and vanquish their competitors. But then it didn't really succeed. So Liu Bei died, then his son Liu Chan died. I mean, they all died. I mean, but his son didn't succeed. So the empire, the kingdom of Shu was wiped out by Cao Cao the way of no, by just by his competitor lah, whatever. Okay, so then yeah, and that's the long vanished emperor, and then his premier is Zhuge Liang, which we mentioned yesterday, the super famous strategist, right? And apparently there are sort of sacrificial temples or just ancestral temples for both the son of Liu Bei and for Zhuge Liang, which is why he is inspired to say this, I guess. So he's probably able to see it from just the view of his window. Yeah. Kind of just read through the last two lines again. So this Liang Fu Yin, in another edition is Liang Fu Yin, I guess. But it's the name of a song, or yeah, name of a song. It's a burial song. And so, but here, so so hard to explain it. Wow, okay, so he apparently, when he says, I am singing this song, right? It actually means referring to this poem itself. But he's just like, okay, this unrestrained from the mountain, I'm just like, what the fuck? Where is this from? Like, it's not in, but okay, so the last two lines should be something like, it's a shame the son of Liu Bei is only left with a ancestral temple. And so now, for a while, I will recite this Liang Fu Ning in the dusk. So that's the Chinese interpretation. Yeah. So here it's kind of like, okay, I think what's going on is he feels like, I mean, he's obviously sad, right? I think he's saying, you know, things are very uncertain, right? Let's see this line. It's just so this interpretation says that line, what's wrong with this poem? Why is this so tough? So line 4, it says like, life is like this river, which is like a line of cloud, because it's very uncertain. Okay. And so even though now things seem a bit stable, but maybe it could be wiped out, just like the Shu, right? This vanquished kingdom. And maybe and then when he says I am the song, I'm like his premier singing that song. So it's like, basically that's establishing the link between his country and like the dynasty in the past, right? Well, not dynasty, but this kingdom in the past, right? So I think what he's trying to say is just worrying about the impermanence of things, and that maybe his kingdom will also fade away into nothing. Yeah. I sing this in such a like I really don't like this poem, man. Like, what's the deal with this? Like, what is it's so strange. Is it just the translation is bad or what? Like I I think the translation didn't help, but that was a very painful experience for me. Do you guys feel that? You say sounds a bit too modern to say I sing this song. Interesting. Right. So it just has this 日暮聊为. So I recite 梁父宁, 梁父吟. Yeah. I think I'm just missing the allusions here. Was just I don't know. I guess I would have to get a better understanding of the Three Kingdoms since everyone's referring to it, but I don't know, this just feels a very tortured poem. Like it tortures the reader. Yeah. Okay, looking through this. I don't know. I don't think this is his best poem. Yeah. But should we move on to the next one? Sorry, I feel like I did a very bad job with this, but I'm just like with this poem, I'm just like, it's just not working for me. Yeah. Like it was very, yeah. Well, let's try this next one. So staying at the general's headquarters, 宿府青丘幕府景无寒，独宿江城蜡炬残。永夜角声悲自语，中天月色好谁看？风尘荏苒，音书绝。官色萧条行路难，宜忍临拼10年事，强移七夕一之安。So apparently there's a variant. 路 one of the words is 路 instead of yeah, this 路 and this 路. Yeah, so this 路 continent might actually is sometimes written as is 路, which is road. Okay. All right, the English. The autumn night is clear and cold in the lacquer trees of this courtyard. I am lying forlorn in the river town. I watch my guttering candle. I hear the lonely notes of a bugle sounding through the dark. My moon is in mid-heaven, but there's no one to share it with me. My messengers are scattered by whirls of rain and sand. City gates are closed to a traveler. Mountains are walls in my way. Yet I, who have borne 10 years of pitiable existence, find here a perch, a little branch, and am safe for this one night. Why is this guy always like in trouble? Not to be unsympathetic, but like, dude, your life sucks. Like what's going on? Okay, so he's working at the general's house, which is why but then when he lives, his house is pretty far away, which is why, and then he gets off work pretty late, so he can't really go back, so he just lives in the general's house permanently. I see. So because everyone else went home, he often lives alone. Interesting. Okay. Hmm. And hmm. Okay, so but apparently he's not having a good time working here because many of his colleagues are dislike him. So they're jealous and then they like talk bad about him and like exclude him. So she's pretty miserable. Yeah. Hey. So I guess he's alone in more than one way. Yeah. He's physically alone, but even when people are there, he definitely feels very isolated as well. Okay. So here, the autumn night is clear and cold in the lacquer trees of this courtyard. I am lying forlorn in the river town. I watch my guttering candle. I hear the lonely notes of a bugle sounding through the dark. The moon is in mid-heaven, but there's no one to share it with me. I guess that is pretty rough, right? I mean, presumably he, like, I mean, he can't even go home to his wife. And he's alone in this headquarters and like, it's not been very fun. Everyone, like, just people are not being very nice to him. And yeah, so he's just lying there watching his candle. I guess he's in his bedroom. Yeah. And all he hears is some kind of musical instrument, right? So that reminds him of like could be it's almost like a party he's not attending, I guess. I feels like I don't know. Maybe not. But it does feel like just but somehow hearing this makes him feel even more sad. Yeah. Yeah. And then this next part, my messengers are scattered by whirls of rain and sand. City gates are closed to a traveler. Mountains are walls in my way. Not sure what's the deal with the messengers though. Like, I guess he's still looking for his family, like maybe his brothers, but it's not working out. And but it's really hard, and he's still being in his location. He's just very, but he's not in a position to travel, right, to look for them, and also just geographically, it's not good. Yeah, and then here, yet I, who have borne 10 years of pitiable existence, find here a perch, a little branch, and am safe for this one night. I like this final line. Like, I guess the last few poems, I was just kind of annoyed. Like, why? It feels like he's just seeing the bad parts of everything. Like, which, to be fair, the situation is like tragic, right? I think it's sort of it's nice to see that he is appreciating the stability here, and like I think that sort of make his complaints, like knowing that he's someone that doesn't knowing that he's someone that who can appreciate the small things. I guess it makes like the hopeless poems feel more powerful. Yeah. Because as opposed to someone who's just like overreacting to everything. I think knowing this actually makes me like the previous poems a bit more. Because when I just read them alone, I feel like, wow, this guy is either like you have like 3 super sad poems and then 1 like super happy poem. Like, is he just a bit like bipolar or something, right? Like, do you not have like, are you just overreacting to everything? I think here it does contextualize the other poems quite a bit. Yeah. And I do like this final line now. Just he's comparing himself to like a bird, right? Like kind of a very vulnerable thing, but at least he is safer. Yeah, just for a while. I think, yeah, good attitude to have, especially when you're sort of not doing so well. Just appreciating the small things on. Yeah. You say, oh, I think a bugle is a military musical instrument and is used to signal the start of the end or the end of the day. That's, oh wow. Okay, that makes sense why it would make him sad then. It's just, I guess he's still here, like he's reminded of the war. Yeah. And you said a happy final line, and you think you can relate to that feeling. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think I do find this last line a lot more relatable and a lot more, yeah. I mean, obviously, I can obviously relate to like him feeling lonely, but right. I think this line, right? The moon is in mid-heaven, but there's no one to share it with me. I think that's really very powerful. But I think I'm just a bit desensitized because of him like being depressed the last few poems as well. Yeah, so in the end, this last line feels the most, like sticks out the most to me. Yeah. But, good for him. Good attitude. Yeah. I hate these kinds of like comments. It's like freaking useless. It's like everything is perfect in this poem. Like only Du Fu can do this. Like, please just like that's not very helpful at all, is it? Yeah. Like obviously nothing is perfect, right? But or at least if you really think it's so perfect, like please give a stronger case than just saying that. Like so many of these comments are just like, oh, it's so good. It's like, I know it's good, but why? Why is it good? Nothing very useful here, unfortunately. Yeah, damn. I don't know. Is it like the more famous the poet is, the more like useless comments it has? They're just like, oh, he's very famous, so I can't criticize his work. Which is like, I mean, obviously not every poem he wrote is perfect, right? Obviously there's room for improvement and critique. Yeah, so, okay, look at this. You said he can share the sight of the moon with his childhood imaginary friend. This reminds me, this is just like that Li Bai poem, right? Where he's drinking, but then he's like, hey man, he's drinking alone, but he's like, hey man, at least I have the companionship of the moon and my shadow. So that's 3 of us. I think I guess Li Bai is more like, he seems like more of a carefree personality. And I guess Du Fu is more like a bit more serious. Yeah, so I really need a Li Bai poem now. Or just I don't think I can stand like 5 more sad boy poems. Oh gosh. Is it just fanboying? Yeah, yeah. A lot of these comments are just fanboying, right? Yeah. Man, is every other poem just sad today? Like, okay, okay. Okay, I'm kind of looking forward to this last 4. So this is like a series of poems. It's actually a group of 5, so we'll read the 5th one tomorrow. So I'm kind of curious about this. I think okay, so then we just have one more before we get to that. So let's get through this. I bet this is gonna be like, oh, I miss my family. There's a huge war. I mean, not to make light of those things, right? Like, obviously, these are terrible things, but just, yeah, uh, just, okay. You know what? No complaining. I'll just read this. Okay. Night in the Watchtower. 隔夜，岁暮阴阳催短景，天涯霜雪起寂寒宵。五更鼓角声悲壮，三峡星河引动摇。野哭千家闻战伐，一歌数处起渔郊。卧龙耀跃马中黄土。Let me read that again. 卧龙跃马中黄土，人世音书漫寂寥。While winter daylight shortens in the elemental scale, and snow and frost whiten the cold circling night, Stark sounds the 5th watch with a challenge of drum and bugle. The stars and the river of heaven pulse over the 3 mountains. I hear women in the distance wailing after the battle. I see barbarian fishermen and woodcutters in the dawn. Sleeping dragon, plunging horse are no generals now. They are dust. Hush for a moment, O tumult of the world. Okay, what's going on? You know, I'm just confused. I see, so he's looking at... Actually, I have no idea. The context is that there's a lot of historical monuments in the area, so maybe he's looking at those. But he said it's just same. He's old. There's fighting, and then the only new thing is that his friends, many of his good friends, have like passed away. Yeah, I think this guy just leads a very tragic life. It's pretty rough. I guess you gotta admire his tenacity. Like, I guess maybe he writes these poems to help him survive and like to express his pain. And so I shouldn't just think of him as like a depressed guy. Like, his life is really hard. Okay. And he's trying his best to cope. So yeah. All right. So let's go line by line. I have no idea what he's saying. While winter daylight shortens in the elemental scale. What does that mean? Oh, it's nothing that fancy. This yin, I think yin yang, the translator thought is like yin and yang, right? I mean, it's literally those characters. But I think here it just means like bright and dark. It's just like day and night. Yeah. So I think it's saying day and night are shortening, or the days are shortening because we're approaching winter. Okay. And then and snow and frost whiten the cold circling night. Okay, that makes more sense then. Start sounds the fifth watch with a challenge of drum and bugle. The fifth watch. I guess that's in the evening, right? Okay, so fifth watch is they divide the night into 5 watches, and then the fifth one is closest to the dawn. Okay. And then the bugle is a, yeah, you're right. So these are military, like musical instruments. Okay. All right, then next, the stars and the river of heaven pulse over the 3 mountains. I think the river of heaven is the Milky Way, so this is just the sky, right? So he's just looking, here's the drums, he's looking at the sky, okay. And I hear women in the distance wailing after the battle. So what's up with that? Okay, so there's been some rebellions in the area, just some fighting, which is why there's crying. I see barbarian fishermen and woodcutters in the dawn. So here, now they're just like, there are some non-Chinese people who live in the area. Well, yeah, okay, not very nice to call them barbarians then. Yeah, just non-Chinese lah. Then next, sleeping dragon, plunging horse. What's that? Oh, sleeping dragon is Zhuge Liang. We mentioned before, right? That strategist. And sleeping horse. Who the heck is sleeping? Oh, I mean plunging horse. Plunging horse is this other guy called Gong Sun Shu. Okay. Just some other famous general. But the point is that these two are very good generals, and so they would have been able to take back like this dangerous land, like quell all the rebellions, right? And yeah, hush for a moment, O tumult of the world. Okay, so let's start from the start then. So when winter daylight shortens, right? Okay, and snow and frost whiten the cold circling night, Stark sounds the fifth watch with a challenge of drum and bugle. The star and the river of heaven, the stars and the river of heaven pulse over the 3 mountains. Also, can I just say, I think he overuses bugle to talk about war. Like, I get it, but I wish there was a more creative way that it could be done. And we've seen the word bugle like so many times today. Yeah. All right, next. Okay, so, but yeah, he's talking about, he's setting the scene, right? And then the first half, the second half is what he's thinking. So here it's like daylight is shortening, it's getting cold, but it's in the evening, or it's in midnight, but it's like middle of the night, but it's approaching the dawn, and he's just looking at the stars. And even so late or so early, depending on how you look at it, then women are crying, mourning their loved ones, and I guess, yeah, people are setting out to begin their work. But at the end, he's like, wow, all these great generals who could have brought us peace, they're all dead. But for now, just let's take a break from thinking about this. I guess by writing, he's able to take a break from thinking about it. But that doesn't seem quite right, because if you're writing a poem about the shitty things that happen, then obviously you're thinking about the shitty things, right? So, but I guess if it works, it works. Yeah. Yeah. Let's look at the famous comments. I don't know. I guess just being a bit impatient. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like these are very good poems. Maybe I came in with very high expectations, but a lot of these seem to be, I don't know, nothing special, right? Like the fact that he says bugle so many times is not, I don't quite like that. Like, I'm not sure if he's dealing with the themes in a very creative way. Yeah. Like obviously you're sad, right? I get that, but I guess as an artist, it does feel like you should. I get that he's trying to express his sadness in different ways, but somehow, at least right now as I read it, it feels very like one note. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the famous comment. Maybe let's look at your comments first, if you have anything. Right. Okay. Oh, quite a few ones. You say you like the last line. It's peaceful, like with the previous poem. That's true. That's true. I like that too. And you say nighttime is longer in winter, and the bugle marks time. And you see the bugle is still on his mind, maybe, and it shows that this is in a military setting. It can be a familiar image through repetition. That's true. That's true. Right? It's like how they always talk about the river, the yellow river, right? So yeah, I guess I have to maybe I can look at it in a different way where the repetition is a feature, not a bug, right? Like it's meant to keep repeating because he finds it, I don't know, so poignant, so meaningful. I guess so, yeah. Okay. I'll try thinking of it that way, yeah. I think it'll make me a bit less miserable reading it for the nth time. Okay. Let's look at the famous comments as well. Okay, this is a classic fanboy comment. 7 lines. It's so powerful. It's powerful, but yet, I don't know, subtle. It doesn't lose what is unspoken. I sure wish there was someone who could write so well. Like someone else who could write so well. Like what? Like, what are you saying, dude? Like it's like those people who like go for wine tastings and then it just sounds a bit pretentious. I don't know. Like you can feel that, but I wish I don't know. It just sounds a bit pretentious. Yeah. Like, give me something of substance, please. Hmm. This is the biggest fanboy comment ever. Okay, and this is in a book supposedly called Straightforward or Direct Explanations of the Tang Poems. It says it is shining in all directions and I am unable to look at it directly. Like what the fuck? Like, huh? So is this a straightforward explanation of the poem? You're just simping for the guy, man. Like, this is like, okay, I guess there are worse people to simp after, but like there's so many comments, but like almost nothing is worth reading. Such a pain. Okay. I still can't get over the fact like that his only comment is that, oh, it's radiant, it's shining. Like, come on. Okay, let's try to find something useful. Hmm. I guess this does say that the sound of the bugle is when this is when you signal the end of each section of the night, and it sounds very tragic, sad but strong. I guess I can see that. I can see, yeah, and maybe that's why it always figures in the poem. Like, it's just really sets the tone well. I guess you can't fault an artist for having like certain motifs, right? Yeah. Wow, there's a lot of comments. Okay. This was kind of strange one. It says the virtuous and the foolish both end in the same way. So, I don't know how to explain this. Then, so why bother planning? I'm like, what? Is it a diary entry? Like, what's the deal with this? Oh, it's so annoying. Like, there's so many comments because he's famous, but like, most of them are just trash. Like, sorry, so much complaining from me. I need to stop. But just had such high expectations for today. Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. It says the middle 4 lines is about what's happening in the world, right? And then the last 2 lines are about, I guess, humans in general. I think that's completely wrong though. I mean, if he's talking about these generals, then obviously he's talking about not like of the passage of time, but he's talking about, oh, I wish they could be here to quell the rebellion as well, right? Like, I think that plays a part in it as well. So I think this guy is just off. Yeah. Mm. Okay, I guess I found nothing useful after so much digging. Let's just... shall we just move on? Gosh. You say reading these poems with you all is pretty cool. Oh, that's nice. Thanks. Yeah. You see, the military is prominent in his poems. It must be significant. Yeah, I think it's just because there's a lot of war, so it's a big deal in that time. You see, maybe the absence of generals show impermanence. That's possible. I mean, the way he says it is like, so in the end, they all end in the yellow dust. Okay, so maybe that's why that guy was saying that the wise and the virtuous all die, right? But, do you think this brings him any solace in this last, the solace in the last line? Where this idea where, well, everyone's gonna die, so. I mean, it's not like he's afraid of death now, right? It's more like he's just, I thought it was mainly because he's lonely and his ambitions were unfulfilled. But I guess it also is, at least for Zhuge Liang, his ambitions were also unfulfilled. So maybe, oh, you said you think so. Okay, so maybe, yeah. I guess maybe he's including himself among the ranks of these people. And like, even though they're very talented, they did a lot of things, but in many ways their lives are still failures. So, and that brings him some solace. And then some solace in the last part of the poem. Okay. Okay, I think that makes me like the poem a bit more. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, obviously these aren't bad poems, but somehow they're just not working for me today. But yeah. It's an interesting idea. Oh, and reading your comments, Jose says is an interesting idea, and you also say, I think he's just wanting to take a break from these things. I also want to take a break from these things. But he keeps writing about it. Nah, stop complaining. Yeah, I need to stop complaining. Yeah. But I wonder what these will be. So, as I said just now, this is a series of 5 poems about the ancient monuments left behind by 5 historical figures, and it praises them. And yeah, okay, that's really interesting. But apparently it's gonna be a sad boy vibes again. But at the same time, he's gonna talk about how his career is not going great. Like he's having to wander for a long time. Like, I know you have the rough life, dude, but like, I wish you could try to enjoy the small things, eh? Like, if all his poems are like this, I would not really want to be him. Okay, but let's stop ripping on him. Let's read this one. Poetic Thoughts on Ancient Sites 1. 咏怀古迹5首之一。支离东北风尘际，漂泊西南天地间。三峡楼台，烟日月，无锡一幅共云山。截胡事主终无赖，此刻哀时且未还。庾信平生最萧瑟，暮年事父动江关。Forlorn in the northeast among wind and dust, drifting in the southwest between heaven and earth. lingering for days and months in towers and terraces at the Three Gorges, sharing clouds and mountains with the costumes of the five streams. The barbarian serving the ruler in the end was unreliable. The wandering poet lamenting the times had no chance to return. Yu Xing, throughout his life, was most miserable. In his waning years, his poetry stirred the land of rivers and passes. Okay, so what's the deal with this? Oh. So, okay. So Yu Xing is let's just actually look at this page for Yu Xing. Just who is this guy? Okay, well, I guess this is him. Looks like a cartoon character. I mean, obviously this is a stylized portrayal, but yeah, he's a writer. Okay, just mainly known as a writer, and apparently, yeah, faced a lot of hardship in his life because of lived in like tumultuous times, and he had to wander for a long while. So I think that's what Du Fu's resonating to. Yeah. Let's go through this again. Forlorn in the northeast among wind and dust, drifting in the southwest between heaven and earth, lingering for days and months in towers and terraces at the Three Gorges, sharing clouds and mountains with the costumes of the five streams. The barbarian serving the ruler, in the end, was unreliable. The wandering poet, lamenting the times, had no chance to return. Yu Xin, throughout his life, was most miserable. In his waning years, his poetry stirred the land of rivers and passes. All right, the first few lines, I guess, I mean, all these are random details about Yu Xing's life, right? I think what's relevant here is that just how much he had to wander and travel and just being unrooted, right? And not being able to return to, I guess, their home. And he's like, wow, this guy's life is even almost as bad as mine. Yeah, but I mean, he's like, I guess he can resonate with how painful this is. Yeah, but it seems like the very last one is more optimistic, right? He says, but in his waning years, his poetry stirred the land of rivers and passes. I think maybe this is one way Du Fu understands how he gives meaning to his pain is by converting the pain into poetry, that at least some good is made out of it, that there is some meaning. And yeah, I think that actually, wow, that's actually really meaningful then. I mean, right now we're still reading his poems. I mean, I don't quite like them, the sad ones, but at least it does. But if he never wrote about it, then I guess in some sense it felt like completely pointless suffering, right? So I think this helps me understand why he's writing so much, why he's expressing so much pain in his poems. Like, it's not just to feel a bit better, but also just to lend some meaning to the suffering. And as a monument, a document, it's a document of the times, but also a document of, but yeah, like it's a document of the times, but it's also just like a personal coping mechanism. Yeah. Wow, okay. Oh, this is great. This is great. I think this helped me kind of understand Du Fu a bit more, actually, when he's talking about someone else. Or So let's look at this first one. So it doesn't actually explicitly state what is the monument that he's visiting, but I think it's supposed to be Yu Xing's house, old house, right? And can I just say the idea of just a series of poems based on ancient monuments linked to historical figures? I think that's a very cool idea. That's really, really cool. Like, that's very creative. So good on him. I like that a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So clearly, I agree with this. He's just comparing himself to Yu Xing. So he's really talking about himself. So, yep, completely agree. All right, then let's move on to the second one. Let me just see if you have any thoughts. And also maybe one last comment. I thought it was interesting that he only brings in Yu Xing, talks about who he's talking about at the end, right? So it really does dispose you to read the first thing. Like, it's kind of obvious. Like, it does make you think like, oh, he's talking about himself. And then in the end, you're like, oh, I guess it's Yu Xing. But it really is himself, right? Yeah. So we say, it's an interesting idea. Emo times today. Yeah, really emo today. Yeah. So Yu Xing is an author. Yep. What are some titles he wrote? Maybe his poetry made people feel things. Maybe just to see what are some things he wrote. Just a lot of poems, I believe. Yeah, but I guess he's famous. I never really heard of him. So okay, there's just his, I guess mostly just like his collected poems. Let's see. Oh, I think it may have been lost actually. Like, dang, okay. But nothing. These are not super famous. At least I don't know about them, but I guess he was famous in his time. And in Du Fu's time, yeah. Okay. And on whether his poetry made people feel things. Well, I guess it made Du Fu feel something. So, gotta give him credit for that. Yeah. Okay, let's try to go this next one then. Poetic thoughts on ancient sites too. 咏怀古迹五首之二，摇落深知宋日悲，风流儒雅亦务诗。怅望千秋意洒泪，萧条衣带不同时。江山古宅空闻早，云雨荒台起梦思。最是楚宫剧泯灭，周人指点道今宜。Decay and decline, deep knowledge have I of Song Yu's grief. Romantic and refined, he too is my teacher. Sadly looking across 1,000 autumns, one shower of tears, melancholy in different epochs, not at the same time. Among rivers and mountains, his old abode, empty his writings. Deserted terrace of cloud and rain, surely not just imagined in a dream. Utterly, the palaces of Chu are all destroyed and ruined. The fishermen pointing them out today are unsure. Wow, I really like this actually. Interesting. So, well, I guess who's Song Yu? I don't know him though. Let me just open all these tabs for later. So Song Yu is a poet as well. Oh, this in the before the Qin. So this is a warring states. Yeah, it's from the state of Chu. So in the south. Oh, no way. He wrote these. Oh, these are super famous. 阳春白雪 and 下里巴人. Well, so 阳春白雪 is supposed to be famously like a very like highbrow poem. And then 下里巴人 is supposed to be a famously like lowbrow poem. I didn't know they were all written by him. That's pretty funny. Right. Oh, that's great. Okay. So then famous poet. So let's read this again then. Decay and decline. Deep knowledge have I of Song Ru's grief. Romantic and refined, he too is my teacher. So what is Song Ru grieving? Is it? I guess he was also in a very tumultuous time, right? And you know, I mean, Chu clearly got conquered by Qin, by the First Empire. So I guess he also knows a lot about war and the tragedies of that, right? So okay, that makes sense to me. Then, sadly looking across 1,000 autumns, one shower of tears, melancholy in different epochs, not at the same time. Well, clearly he's sad. Yeah, and then next, among rivers and mountains, his old abode, empty his writings. Deserted terrace of cloud and rain, surely not just imagined in a dream. I think this goes with the next part. Utterly, the palaces of Chu are all destroyed and ruined. The fishermen pointing them out today are unsure. I think it's really this last part really gets me. It's like, so Chu is the homeland of Song Yu, right? But now they're all so ruined, and like the fishermen, like they don't even know, like, is this a palace? This is that palace? I don't know, right? It's like, wow. I think this really ties into his own worries about the fall of his own country, right? And here is someone who actually, I guess, experienced it very viscerally, because so he died 222 BC. The Qin Empire unified China in 221 BC. So that means he died 1 year before. Yeah, just his country must have been conquered like latest 1 year after this. So he's really close to the end of yeah, okay. Year 222, Chu was vanquished. So he really lived through that. Well, I mean, he died. I think probably he died because of his country being conquered. Yeah, so I think this is probably the part where that connects the most to Du Fu here. Yeah. Right, he's saying like, even though he is separated from Du Fu and Song Yu are separated by 1,000 years, but their tears are like in one shower. So I think it means they are grieving over the same thing. So I think here is really about his worries about the fall of his own country. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's really good. Is it true? Was lost to impermanence? Was it just a dream? Right. I mean, it is a real country, but I guess you're saying that because now the monuments, like there's so little traces of it, you wonder if it's still a dream, right? Yeah. Ah, right. That's what you said. Deserted terrace of cloud and rain, surely not just imagined in a dream. Yeah. Isn't it scary? I guess just the idea that, I mean, this thing that this country that he really served, and like for his, or at least aspired to serve for his entire life, it just disappears and it becomes like a dream. And yeah, like barely leaving a trace, right? I think I can understand why he's so afraid. I think I'm getting a better understanding of it. Yeah. Wow. Looking at just some famous comments. Okay, not a lot. Ah, well, this is kind of obvious, but just good that someone else is saying it. Just that his own concerns are similar to Song Yu's, which is why he's using Song Yu as a way to talk about himself, right? Talk about his own worries. Yeah. Okay, I guess that's it for this second one. Let's go to the third one then. This should be for Wang Zhaojun, right? The historical figure. Yeah, I think so. Let me just move some of my tabs around. Okay, so let's go. Thoughts of Old Times 3. Thoughts of Old Time 3. 咏怀古迹五首之三。群山万壑赴荆门。生长明妃尚有村。一去紫台连朔漠。独留青冢向黄昏。殊途省时春风面。环佩空归月下魂。千载琵琶作胡语。分明怨恨曲中论。10,000 ranges and valleys approach the Jing Gate, and the village in which the Lady of Light was born and bred. She went out from the Purple Palace into the desert land. She has now become a green grave in the yellow dusk. Her face, can you picture a wind of the spring? Her spirit by moonlight returns with a tinkling, song of the Tartars on her jade guitar, telling her eternal sorrow. So this is referring to Wang Zhaojun, which is a famous beauty in Chinese history. So I think this is the village where she was born. Let's see a bit more. Okay, so let's look at the context. So where is so this is her. I mean, clearly it's a modern take, but yeah, supposed to be one of the four great beauties of Chinese history, and apparently she's so beautiful that a crane saw her and then like it just fell. I mean, that sounds like it would happen if you were really ugly, right? But like causing birds to like fall from the sky, that sounds kind of ominous, but yeah, not sure what the deal is, but okay. Yeah, but this one is because she had to she's really beautiful, but then she was not actually, she was kind of like married out to a foreign tribal leader in order as part of like some deal. And so it's really, I mean, obviously she didn't have a choice in it. So she's really a rough life. Yeah. Yeah. So just having to kind of like be married out to, just against her will, and to, uh, I mean, someone she didn't really love, and just living in the really rough conditions, I guess. Like that's quite a tragic life. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So I think that's the context that we're working with. So that's why it says she went up from the purple palace into the desert land. Yeah, I hope that's kind of helpful. Oh, looking at your comments, you said, oh, you asked, 请问我喝什么饮料? Oh, it's just water. I'm just drinking water. Just my bottle. Yeah. And you said, I think you could get a job as a language teacher. Oh, wow. Thanks. Thanks. I was thinking of running some online courses, like Zoom classes, just to make some money in the summer. So I don't know if people will pay for it. I'm very happy to do it. Yeah. I said, yeah, birds falling from the sky. Yeah, crazy, Is this so the for this famous 成语, right? The idiom is like 沉鱼落雁. So apparently another of the beauties, like they're so beautiful, and then like the fish saw her and then they just like drowned, which also sounds super ominous. Like, but apparently it's a sign of how beautiful they are. Yeah. Okay. So here, so the first two lines is about the village in which she's born, right? So 10,000 ranges and valleys approach the Qing Gate, and the village in which the Lady of Light was born and bred. So the Lady of Light is just another name for Wang Zhaojun. Okay. Then she went out from the purple palace into the desert land. She has now become a green grave in the yellow dusk. So yeah, because of she sort of married off to someone else. So she had to really endure. I mean, you can imagine life in the desert is not a piece of cake, right? And she's coming there straight from like the imperial palace. We're just like super comfortable, I would imagine. Yeah. I thought these lines were interesting here because he uses all the colors, right? From the purple palace, the green grave in the yellow dusk. Kind of interesting. Right, next, her face. Can you imagine a wind of the spring? I think he's just describing how beautiful she is. Her spirit by moonlight returns with a tinkling. Song of the Tartars on her jade guitar. It's a pipa, a Chinese instrument, pipa, translated to guitar, I guess. It says, telling her eternal sorrow. I'm not sure how this actually connects to Du Fu. Like, is it just because of like being sent somewhere he doesn't really want to be? I guess so. Let's look at the comments, I guess. But, yeah, I think so. Let's look at the third one. Hmm. Hmm. I guess the only thing that really sticks out to me again is the use of color here. Yeah. And I think also that she's in the end telling her sorrow through a song, which seems to be again, it's kind of like what the others are doing, right? So the others are all poets, but they're remembered for their writing. So I think in many ways it is continuing on the same themes, but here, yeah, just I guess here he's more exploring the dimension of resentment. So 怨恨, right? So this here, even though you translate it as sorrow, here is more about resentment. And I don't think there was as much resentment in the last one. The last two, rather. And I guess, yeah, actually this is a side he hasn't really expressed, right? He's just like, wow, life is terrible. But I think here it's interesting where it's almost like he's like asking, why is this happening to me? Like I am like just like this woman is a like really beautiful, like legendarily beautiful. Like he is a really like legendarily good poet, right? So it's almost like I guess he's I can hear him like sort of saying like, I don't deserve this. Why are you doing this to me? So I think that's kind of interesting. Like I think this fills out the picture of if this is a reflection of how he feels, it really is makes him a bit more human. Like just kind of this petty feeling that like you know you shouldn't feel, but you still feel it, right? I think would be very interesting. Yeah. I think looking about it that way makes me like this poem a lot more. Interesting. And he said, you notice the use of colors also, and maybe these are Du Fu's thoughts on older times. Yeah, that's what I guess that is the title, right? But I think historic older times, yes, but I think it's more specific because he's talking about very specific figures. And yeah, so yeah. Oh, or was that a joke? I guess it is a thought on old times, right? Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. Because it literally says thoughts of old time. But the titling is a bit weird. I think the translation's kind of like here is like poetic thoughts on ancient sites, right? And then but then for this one, it's called thoughts of old times, even though he puts the same translator here. So kind of strange why it's inconsistent titling, but yeah. I do quite like this one, this poem, just because it's just different. Yeah. Like usually, I mean, that he's comparing himself to a woman as well. Oh, you said it wasn't a joke. Ah, sorry. Yeah, but I guess it is. If it's a thought of old time, then yeah. But I think I think more specifically, he's thinking of specific people in the past. Yeah, and I guess trying to situate himself in history in well, not really situating himself in history, right? Like trying to understand his situation through the lens of other people in the past. Yeah. And I also thought it's very interesting that yeah, oh you asked so it's poems about history? Well, not exactly, right? Like so again, these are a series of 5 poems. They're inspired by visiting 5 ancient sites, five ancient monuments related to 5 very specific historical figures. So that's why the first one is 庾信. The second one is 宋玉. And then the third one is Wang Zhaojun. So, or this Ming Fei, right? Lady of Light. Yeah, so then the fourth one, I believe, will be Liu Bei. Yeah, exactly, Liu Bei. So it's the ruler of Shu. Yeah, so it's a very is a concept that's like very, very specific. And so which is why I think this is not just history in general, but just these specific people, like these historical figures. Yeah. So okay. Then maybe is there anything here? Oh, he said, oh, that's really neat. Right? The idea is so cool. Like, and it's also very interesting because in the end, all the poems are about himself. So how he feels about these historical figures, right? I think it's a really cool idea, I think. Like execution, I'm not sure if I like the way he actually did it. I'm not sure if I actually like the poems themselves, but the idea is really cool. Yeah. Okay, so maybe let's go on to this next poem, the last for the day. So, I mean, there's 4 out of 5. So the 5th poem, we can do it tomorrow. Okay, so let's do this. Poetic Thoughts on Ancient Sites for 咏怀古迹五首之4. So, 蜀主征吴信三峡，崩年亦在永安宫。翠华想象空山里，日殿虚无野寺中。古庙沙松，潮水鹤，碎石浮蜡走村翁。武侯祠屋长陵镜，一体君臣祭祀同。The ruler of Shu had his eyes on Wu and progressed as far as the Three Gorges. In the year of his demise, too, he was in the Palace of Eternal Peace. The blue-green banners can be imagined on the empty mountain. The jade palace is a void in the deserted temple. In the pines of the ancient shrine, aquatic cranes nest. At summer and winter festivals, the comers are village elders. The Marshal Marquise's memorial shrine is ever nearby. In union, sovereign and minister share the sacrifices together. Well, this last guy he's talking about Liu Bei, right? So we've already talked about him a few times. Liu Bei, again, he has royal blood, didn't have a lot of money, but he somehow managed to get a lot of talented people under him. And yeah, he was one of the 3 kingdoms. I think he was the weakest out of the 3, but it's pretty impressive, like considering how he started. Yeah, so the ruler of Shu had his eyes on Wu, so that's one of the other 3 kingdoms, and he wanted to, and I guess it progressed as far, like he took over the land as far as there. And in the year of his demise too, he was in the Palace of Eternal Peace. So I'm not sure what's the significance of that. I think, oh, okay, I think he's just, I don't know, that's where he's seeing it, maybe. Like that's the location where he's inspired. Right, okay. It's because he sees Yong'an Gong, that's why, the Palace of Eternal Peace, that's why he's writing the poem about Liu Bei here. That's really cool. Okay. Then, the blue-green banners can be imagined on the empty mountain. The jade palace is a void in the deserted temple. Is this the palace or what? In the pines of the ancient shrine, aquatic cranes nest. At summer and winter festivals, the comers are village elders. So he's describing the place around the palace. I see. It's just where it used to be like a real palace. Now it's like birds are chilling there. Like it's clearly not doing too well. Yeah, not very well maintained, right? And then, this guy was like somebody, but now the only people who sort of pay their respects to him are just like these old people in the village. Like they're not like officials or something. They're not like high-ranking officials, right? They're just like the local village elders. So I think he's really contemplating like again transience and failure, being forgotten, I guess. Yeah. Then next, the Marshal Marquis. I'm trying to see who that is. I think the Marshal Marquis, that's the Zhuge Liang. So that'll be the subject of the next poem. So the Zhuge Liang, the strategist of Liu Bei, right? And then in union, the sovereign and minister share the sacrifices together. That's pretty cool though. That's like two bros for life, bros for life, and like and in the afterlife. Wow, that's pretty cool. Wow, I feel like we have to read this with the poem 5 to really get the whole sense. I mean, if he straight up says like, sovereign and minister share the sacrifices together, makes sense that we have to read the other poem as well. Like I suspect the two poems are better to be read together. Yeah. Maybe let's look at the famous critics for this, and then we'll revisit this poem tomorrow. Yeah. Mm. Hmm. Yeah, okay, nothing very that stands out here. So I think let's look at the poem 5 tomorrow, and then I'll come back again and let's look at this poem 4 again. Yeah. So, and I guess it's already like been 2 hours or something. So yeah. You said Empress Wu promoted Buddhism and Buddhism promoted tea. Oh, I guess so. I don't know about that. And you said, oh, that is a kingdom. Oh, yes. The Wu here. Right. So this is a different one. This is the Wu. So this is not Wu Zetian, the Wu. This is Wu, one of the three kingdoms. Let me see. Right. Yeah, this is the difficult part because like if without the characters, like it's very easy to confuse the different like there are a lot of characters that are pronounced the same way. So especially if it's like names, like when you just say like, oh, this is when you say it in English, it's very easy to get confused. So very understandable. Happens like a lot. Yeah. Let me find. Does this say Wu here? Ah, 5. 嗯，三国. I keep typing in traditional. Man, Chinese Wikipedia kind of sucks. No, I'm not looking for. Okay, here. Right, so this is one of the kingdoms is run by Sun Quan. Yeah. So it's one of the three next to this Wei, run by the Cao family, by Cao Cao, and then the Han. I mean the kingdom of Shu, but it's run by the Han line, right? Because Liu Bei is supposed to be part of the bloodline of the Han dynasty. So yeah. So yeah, this is one of the three kingdoms. Personally, I can't remember all three. So actually that was helpful for me to just to double check that it was one of the three kingdoms. Yeah. All right. Oh, okay. You said you're still here, but okay. But yeah, thanks for that. Just sorry, yeah. I know it's very confusing because I said bye, then I kept going. But yeah, okay. Then bye for real. And yeah, thanks for this. And I guess I'll see you all tomorrow then. All right. Bye-bye.